Welcome to our project presentation on the new Stoughton High School. My name is Joel Walk, and I'm the Vice Chairman of the High School Building Committee. Also from the town, Principal Miller is here somewhere. There she is, thank you. And we have our consultants. So I'm going to start off with Dom Tiberi, who is the owner's project manager, Compass Project Management, and they are the owner's project managers, as I said, and he's going to introduce everybody and we'll get started. Thank you. Wait a minute, Dom.
Just have to swap technology, excuse me.
I'll figure out how this thing works here. Here you go.
Good morning. Thank you for all coming. I know somebody asked me, this is kind of an odd time to have the community forum, but as we discussed, we were always going to be transparent, and we've come to different parts of this project and different parts of the milestones. I know we were, and I think, Carl, do you want to put up that first slide? One thing we want to, just go through the timeline again. If you remember, June is when we had the town vote for the approval to proceed with the new construction, and successfully that vote went ahead so that we would continue to go. In the process, and you can see we were talking about preferred schematics. I know some people here didn't realize that we went through these, so it's a good thing to recap that we actually looked at 4 different options. 2 were renovation addition options, and 2 were brand new schools. And when we did the pricing exercise, we discovered that actually the renovation additions would cost more money, and it came, as a recommendation all the way around that we would go with a new school project. I just want to jump back down to basically where we are in June and going forward. In June, Carl Franceschi is here with DRA, and Christian Reardon is here with Consigli Construction. Carl is our architectural firm, and Christian represents our construction management firm. In June, we started the process of getting the construction manager to come on board. And the reason for the construction manager is multiple reasons. A project of this size, you want to have a qualified construction project personnel on this project regarding, and they use the nomenclature construction manager, and a lot of people understand it as a general contractor, but it's more than a general contractor. They're really partners and they collaborate, and you bring them on early. Where we were in June was we had a design that was heavily in concept, but there was a lot behind that concept. Carl's team in the last few months has brought that project into what we call design development, but there's a lot of meat in that part, going from concept to what really is constructability, and that gives the reason for the construction manager to come on board and look at those documents and become a collaborative member of this project team, which will make it much easier for us as we go through this project when we break ground sometime in June of 2017. I wanted to also explain the whole process real quick about the construction manager. Once we had the vote in June, we sent out for qualifications for construction managers. We had 10 very qualified construction managers apply for the project. We went through a pre-qualification process. We had a team of people reviewing that. We eventually got down to the final 2, which was Consigli Construction and Gilbane Company, both highly recommended, highly qualified teams. I'm going to have Christian just talk briefly about the Consigli Company, and then I'll get back on and talk a little bit about where we are on budget, and then Carl's going to do where we've been and what the project is starting to come together to look like. So Christian, if you want to, just quickly. And Christian left some pamphlets out there in regards to who Consigli is. So.
Great. Thank you, Don. My name is Christian Reardon. I am the project executive for Consigli Construction. I am the focal point between pre-construction and construction of your project. I have 22 years experience. I actually started out as a construction superintendent, worked my way through project management up to project executive. The team that we've actually assembled for you guys is currently working down the street in Holbrook. Very similar project in size, and actually same sort of situation where we're going to create the new high school where your existing fields are, take down your existing building and put your new fields in the front. Very similar. Great experience. Our team has actually done 3 projects together, very sizable, which is located in here. We're a fourth generation, 100-year-old company, 111 years old. We've completed 20 K through 12 schools, 6 of which I've actually been a part of. We've done 65 149A, which is CM at risk projects for the state of Massachusetts. One of the key points that I'd like to say is that the owner of the company, both Anthony and Matthew Consigli, are available at all times, as well as myself 24/7. I've left my contact information on the pamphlet, as well as one final thing I'd like to say is that safety is a major reason why we were so successful here, not only for our construction workers, but for your community, your students and your faculty. And that is at the utmost front of our project. I don't know if you... Great.
Thanks, Christian.
Thank you.
So, as Christian just brought up, was safety, and this project will be obviously right next door to a high school, but also in a neighborhood. We've all had experience. I've had almost 40 years experience in construction and building in tight work sites next to neighborhoods. Christian's team has had the same. What we'll do, we'll have a community forum sometime in the spring, and that springtime community forum, we're going to leaflet the area, the neighborhood, and bring the neighbors in here, and we're going to talk about the program, how to keep the neighbors informed of what's going on, but also to let them know what safety programs we have, how things will be worked in conjunction with the high school, because safety is paramount with the students also. So before I turn this over to Carl, which is really the real fun part of this presentation, because you're going to see where we've come from and how much more detail we've gotten now. I wanted to let you know, budget-wise, when we brought Christian on board, his team of Consigli, we got to the point where early in September, DRA, the architects, had finally completed the design development documents, which I brought up is that this is the first time you have not just the documents, but you also have specifications that go with the documents. We as Compass have an independent estimator, DRA had an independent estimator, and Consigli has staff estimators too. We took those documents, we put numbers together, and by the end of September, we came up with numbers. We sat down, we clarified and quantified and verified those documents and made sure that we carried the same things. We had some constructability items that came up. We made some changes on that to make sure that the documents going further would carry that. And by the time we were done, we reconciled the estimate within 0.5% of each other, pretty much. We felt comfortable, especially that Consigli is going to be building this, so they have to be comfortable with their number because it's going to be their number going forward. But not only that, the important thing is that we maintain the budget. Sometimes when you're doing conceptual estimate and then you get into the real meat and potatoes of the documents and specifications, the estimate seems to jump up. As it turned out, with the great collaboration with this team, the estimate stayed at the right number going forward. I think we'll be able to maintain that number, but I feel very confident about that. But I just wanted you to be aware that we are still on budget going forward. We're still on schedule going forward. And the more that we're working together now as a team, the more anything that comes up we can address prior to putting a shovel in the ground. With that being said, I wanted to turn this over to Carl Franceschi. He's the principal for DRA, and we're going to do basically kind of where we are and where we've been, and show you some of the details of the exterior and the interior. Carl, do you want to take this?
Okay, I guess we need to wear that for the cable folks. Maybe I can do this. There we go. Okay. A lot of you may be wondering why we're not starting construction already. You know, the voting happened in May and June, and you might have anticipated that we should be building it by now or something, but actually there's a lot of design, a lot of detailing and specifications, working with the construction manager that has to happen before actual construction can take place. The estimating that was done back in the spring in May and June was based on what are known as schematic drawings. Now we've got much more detailed drawings, as Dom mentioned, and we'll actually be continuing to work for several more months before we can actually put this out to bid to subcontractors and all. But construction, and we'll get to the schedule a little bit, is due to start next spring, probably as soon as the weather breaks and we can get some early site work started. But for now, we're busy developing the details. And for the most part, I think for most of you, you'll see that the building, the design has remained essentially the same. We've just added more information to the drawings. And to refresh your oops, let me go back. To refresh your memory of this, here's the new high school. Here's Pearl Street, here's Adams Street. The existing high school sits about here right now. So remember that the concept is to fence off an area and create a construction zone to build the new high school. And then once that building is complete, the students and teachers can be relocated to the high school, and then demolition of the existing high school and creation of these new fields can take place. We'll show you a little bit more about the phasing in a moment. The way the circulation works, the entrance for cars and some pedestrians will still be off of Pearl Street, more or less where it is today, with a driveway that circles around and down to the front door of the new school. That driveway continues to Adams Street. There's parking on 3 sides of the building now, but we clearly separate car traffic from bus traffic so that the buses stack in the back here, and there's a sort of a back door into the main lobby in the center of the building. So we all anticipate that the traffic flow is going to be much more sort of reasonable and rational in the future than it is today here at the high school. And the quantity of parking is more than exists today. And one of the other improvements is we remove the on-street parking from out here on Adams Street and bring it into a parking lot, restore Adams Street with curbing and sidewalk. It becomes a much safer street there, and the parking surrounds the building in close proximity, so there's a lot of parking in close proximity to the entrances, and then we retain this parking lot off of Cushing Street that's shared with the middle school right here. We actually expand it in a couple different directions here, but basically keep it in its current location. And because the building is located here, closer to the middle school, not only can we share this parking, but for those special events in the auditorium or in the gymnasium, we can also share the middle school parking lot here that can access the entrance here. So just to go through, here's a 3-dimensional view. We've got a lot more 3-dimensional views. Oh, I'm sorry, is there a question?
Quick question. During the construction, will they lose the on-street parking on Adams Street?
Yes. We'll get into that. We actually are making accommodations for how to deal with that during the construction. Thanks. One of the things that, you'll see a lot more of these 3-dimensional images now. The way construction plans and documents are done these days, they're not just 2-dimensional drawings, some of which are on these boards here, but we actually create a 3-dimensional computer model that has all of the information in the building, not just the sort of walls and windows and roofs, but also all of the mechanical, electrical systems, plumbing systems in the building, so that we can work out all that coordination on paper, so to speak, or on the computer before it actually gets built. And so a lot of these views that you're seeing, these aren't just for presentation purposes to show you what the building looks like, but it's actually to help work out the details and make sure everything fits together. Yes? It's okay.
I thought the original plan was to add photovoltaic cells to the roof. I don't see any on that.
They're not rendered here. They're still an alternate. We're trying to analyze the quantity of them that we can have in the end. But they would be, we have plenty of flat roof area that we can add them and with no obstructions facing south. So here's, as we say, the 3-dimensional view of the building. Here's Pearl Street. Here's that driveway coming down to the new front entrance here. So obviously once the old high school is removed, we can complete the new track and soccer field, new football field, and relocated tennis courts here, kind of in the front of the existing building. The building is closer to Adams Street right out here. In essence, we're standing right about here right now. And so the new high school is just back sort of diagonally outside the the doors right here. Here's a eye-level view of the new entrance. The building, as you'll see in plan, is sort of segregated where this is the main entrance. This is the administration area, which is in nice proximity to that for security and to welcome visitors and all. The academic parts of the building to the right, sort of the community parts, you might say, or the assembly parts to the left of that entrance. So this volume here is the gymnasium above the locker rooms, and in the center of the building behind that is the auditorium. There's a straight-on view of the entrance. There will be, and we've had several meetings about security, but this will be the main entrance for all visitors. It will be controlled. There'll be cameras. There'll be swipe cards. There'll be, like in an apartment building where you can see who's visiting and remotely open the doors, that the folks inside the office area here can not only directly see, but they'll also have cameras, and they can control those doors for visitors during the day who go directly into the office before going further into the school. There's the overall sort of front elevation, and as I said, the three-story portion of the building to the right of the entrance, here's the main entrance lobby. This three-story portion is primarily the classroom portion of the building, and then these volumes here on the front of the building is a gymnasium above the locker rooms, and then behind that is the auditorium. You can see the materials as we go through this, that the building is primarily a masonry building. We did study this during the schematic phase about what kind of design does this new high school want to be, and we took some cues from the local community, and there are several strong masonry buildings here, and we wanted to continue that, but with sort of a forward-looking attitude toward it. So it is kind of a clean, classical look to the new school with a couple different colors of masonry. So this red is red brick, this yellow is sort of a beige or buff-colored brick. There's also a darker brick down at the base. So using those three colors of brick with some accents of white precast. And then up higher are some metal panel to form sort of the cornice of the building, together with white framed windows. It has, as I say, sort of a very classic look to it, but in a more, you might say, forward-looking or contemporary way. So these are the various four sides of the building, or elevations as they're called. Here are the floor plans. So again, here's that front door. Pearl Street is on this side of the plan. Here's the administration area immediately adjacent to that front door. This is the main lobby. It's sort of a linear lobby. The bus entrance is on this side of the building where buses would queue up, and those students would enter in here. This gray area here is the cafeteria, and you can see it's more of a student commons, not just a cafeteria. It's really part of the circulation system of the building. So as people come in, they'll cut through here to connect to the classroom areas. The assembly areas are to the bottom of the plan. These are the locker rooms. The gym is above that. This is the auditorium, backed up by music rooms here. So on this side of the building, you can imagine on evenings or weekends might be utilized, and the rest of the school can be easily sort of closed off and segregated at a couple of key points here. All of these spaces are the academic classroom portions of the building. You can see that they're clustered in smaller groupings. That really came out of the educational program that was worked on extensively last year, where in addition to regular sized classrooms, there are small group rooms, there's teacher spaces, there are collaborative areas here, there's boys and girls rooms. So really these smaller groupings can be utilized in a very flexible way. Right now the school is organized by English department, social studies, math, and so forth. And this organization could support that, but it could also support you know, say a freshman academy where the freshmen are segregated from the upperclassmen, and they take most of their classes in one spot. There are science labs here, there are teachers' rooms and so forth. It may be organized that way, or a STEAM or STEM academy that focuses on science and technology. Might be another way to organize the building in the future. So there's definitely some flexibility in the plan. And the other aspect of it, it's a fairly compact building overall. It's on 3 stories. It has relatively short corridors now, as opposed to the way the existing building is laid out, which is kind of a sprawling, double-loaded corridor with classrooms on each side. This is a more compact kind of plan. As we move upstairs, so here's the gymnasium, here's the upper part of the auditorium. This lobby area is actually sort of a 2-story lobby, because clearly, you know, for events in the gym, we need to have some lobby space and major stairs to support that activity, or to enter into the back of the auditorium. So there's an upper lobby above the student commons below. And the other major space up here is more traditionally called the library, but again, in this kind of a plan, we refer to it as the learning commons, because it is central to the building, and it's actually, again, could be part of the circulation system, where even though it has walls around it, it's very transparent, has a lot of glass. We envision that students might be cutting through these spaces. And it's a more, you might almost think of it as like a collegiate sort of student commons, where there'll be comfortable seating, there'll be places for students to sit down, access, you know, their laptop and access Wi-Fi and work in small groups. And when, you know, quiet is needed, there are smaller spaces off of this. There are classrooms off of this learning commons, so that groups of students could be handled in that way. And it's one of the exciting sort of new spaces that are happening in 21st century schools. Otherwise, the classrooms on these upper 2 levels mirror what's happening on the first floor. So again, there are basically 6 of these clusters of classrooms, 2 on each of 3 floors. Here's the upper floor. Now this is, you can see only the classroom portion of the building is 3 stories high. These spaces over here are higher volume spaces, the auditorium and the gymnasium. And only the academic part of the building stacks on 3 levels. And there are elevators and stairs strategically placed to serve that building, so it's easy to get around in. Yes, Joel?
Before you go too far, could you point out where special needs will be addressed?
Sure. One of the ways that they're highlighted here, these purple areas, or these beige areas mixed in with the classroom, so that special needs spaces are very well integrated in the plan. They're not segregated, so if you look on each of the floors, you'll see them throughout the plan, that special needs, and it happens not only in these separate classrooms, but special needs students are also mainstreamed and integrated into traditional classrooms as well in this plan. These are some sketches and sort of shows the design process of, in this case, the main lobby. As we said, it's sort of a very linear space. This is as if you took a section, cut through that lobby space. So here's the front door, if you arrive by car or by pedestrian, with a main stair, as we said, to get to the upper lobby that serves the gym and the auditorium. This is if you enter from the bus side of the building here. It's going to be a very tall space filled with light, because there'll be a skylight, there'll be windows up high to bring light into the center of the building. It'll also be a place where we can have some display. There'll be display cases. There's the High School Hall of Fame plaques and things like that. There's a place for the Black Knights logo and sculpture perhaps in this space. So we see it as a space not only that, you know, initially can have certain decor and all, but also can evolve over time and be a place to display student work and trophies and things like that. And this is how it evolves into, you know, now we have hardline drawings and we start identifying materials, so that, as when Dom mentioned, we do cost estimating, we know pretty specifically, you know, how much of this is brick, how much of this is wood paneling, how much of this is acoustical panels, and so forth. and there it is in color. And we've also, as we said, taken interior views of these spaces in our three-dimensional computer model. And so this is one of them. This is as if entering the main entrance. Behind this glass on the right is the administration area. Here are the stairs up to the upper lobby that serves the gymnasium. Straight ahead is that student commons and cafeteria. And now on the upper level of that lobby, coming from the other side, the bus entrance, you can see sort of the, here are the stairs bringing you up. Behind this glass is the learning commons, and you can see the volume of space with that skylight up high. So there'll be a lot of natural light in this space. Another view of that. We also have, some of you may be familiar with virtual reality. We have goggles that you can wear and sort of experience the space too. We can't do it in a large group here, but individually you can put on a goggle and look at this and look around, and you can get a sense for the materials, the space, the volumes, and so forth. It's a great way to not only help us design it, but to sort of communicate it to the owners and users of the space. And then in the classroom areas, those cluster areas, we have what are known as collaboration areas, so that it's sort of part of the corridors. You might say, here's one corridor, here's another corridor, but it's a very wide space that with a lot of classroom doors off of it, but it allows various flexible activities to go on there. And again, this is part of the education plan, that we want this flexibility in the building, that, you know, nowadays a lot of teaching and learning happens not just in the classrooms, but also in the spaces in between. And this is one of them where we hope to, through the use of certain furnishings and equipment in there, encourage that kind of use. This is a question there.
Yes, I do. On that, those commons in the collaboration area.
Let me go back. Oops, sorry.
Where they're right outside the classroom.
Yes.
And kind of in the corridor. How are you going to handle the acoustical effects, especially for students that are in the adjacent classrooms?
Yeah. It's a sort of balancing act where we obviously there are doors, and the classrooms can be, you know, closed off, so that if a few students, you can see small groups here, if students are working in small groups, there are doors, but there's glass, so you can close the door to get, you know, acoustical separation, but you still have the glass so the teachers can sort of see what's going on out there as well, and keep things under control that way. Also, there's acoustical materials in here to help keep it quiet, so that there's a, absorptive ceiling, certain floor materials, certain wall materials too that help absorb sounds, so that it won't be that noisy in here.
Did you consult with the audiologist professionals on the sound stuff?
We have involved them. We also have acoustical consultants on our team to help us choose those materials and look at those systems. We understand, and that's why there's also off of these spaces, you might be able to see it over here, I guess it's right down here. There are small group rooms too, so for those students that can't really deal with this kind of space, of having a little bit of background sound, there are quiet rooms right off of this space that those kind of, either tutoring or small group sessions can happen in.
That's good, but I'm just concerned about the students that are in regular classrooms, and there's several students that come up through this system that have, FM systems and have audiological issues, and other students that just have extreme noise sensitivities, and they may, they should be able to function in those classrooms, even, in that collaboration.
We agree. In fact, the acoustical standards now are very high for classrooms. It used to be that previously there really were no standards, and several things that have happened recently. It's sort of part of the Americans with Disabilities Act that all students be able to, in a classroom setting, be able to hear the teacher, be able to hear other students, and so the background noise has to be lower than it used to be. So for instance, we no longer have, I don't know if you see them in here, but we no longer have those heating units or ventilating units, the fans right in the classroom. The fans now are located, downstream or up on the roof, and the air is ducted into the classroom, so it's quieter. the materials and the way the doors are soundproofed and the walls are soundproofed is much higher level than it used to be. And then even on top of that, we have voice enhancement systems where the teacher wears a microphone like I'm wearing, and there are speakers in the ceiling so that it amplifies the sound for students.
Are those into all the classrooms?
They are, in all typical classrooms. It's great. It's tremendous help to all students. And so in that sense, you can put up with a little bit of background sound. But again, this is sort of one of those flexible spaces that the school is going to have to grow into. They don't really exist today. And so honestly, today's teachers and administrators don't know exactly how it's going to work in the future. It's going to be one of those things. There'll be some professional development. There'll be some, trial and error, I'm sure. And that's why we want to make it as flexible as possible. All these pieces of furniture you're seeing here are all movable. They're not permanent, so that things can change over time.
I just have one quick question. Are all the information about the acoustical specifications available somewhere that someone can look at them?
Actually, all our documents are ultimately available. They're pretty thick, but we do deliver a copy to the owner. And I don't know that they're on the website, Gene, but we can make them available. Gene does a great job of keeping everything available, either both on the school website and the Facebook page for the high school.
As long as somebody I know that could actually understand all of it.
Sure,
look at it.
sure. Thanks. So one other area, just to show you three-dimensionally, this is at Student Commons, the cafeteria. So the main lobby is out here. You see there are no walls around the space. There are, corridors and aisles and so forth. And again, the furniture is meant to be very flexible in here. So here's the main lobby. Here's, right now it's shown pretty repetitive just in this rendering, but that furniture, like this furniture, can be moved around. Some of them will have attached chairs that makes it easy to fold up and move out of the way. Some of them will have loose chairs like these here so that it can act as, a before school space and after school space, as well as, a lunchroom. And then that's the plan view of the Student Commons, where we're showing, instead of this vinyl tile material on the floor, we're specifying a much more durable, lower maintenance kind of material, a porcelain paver. It's a ceramic tile. It doesn't need to be waxed. It can be, broomed or damp mopped for cleaning, and it's very durable, obviously. When you're, right at the ground level where people are coming in off the street, we will have walk-off mats and so forth, but still you want something that stands up to wet and dirty shoes. Here's the section cut through that space on 2 levels. And then up above, as we said, the Learning Commons it does have walls around it for some acoustical separation, but the walls will be, a lot of it will be very glassy, including a glass wall that looks out to the courtyard. So again, even though it's in the middle of the building, we want to make sure that there's a lot of natural light in that space. And again, because there'll be a fair amount of sort of conversations and work going on in here, we need to control the acoustics in that space too. So there'll be carpet on the floor, there'll be very good acoustic absorption in the ceilings and so forth. Here's the auditorium, another important space in the building. One of the design elements here is that there's sort of 2 segments to the auditorium. This is a section cut through again. So here's the stage. There's a lower section that's at a lower angle. Then there's a main cross aisle, which lines up with the first floor and the lobby door. And then there's a steeper, almost stadium section of seating. So there'll be very good sight lines, very good acoustics for these people. Even though they're slightly further away from the stage, they'll still hear very well and hear both sort of the natural voice, but also we'll have a great sound system in there too, to enhance both music and spoken word in that space. And we're working on the detailing of, these are wood panels around the stage, and we're looking at the treatment on the walls and so forth here. Yes?
Quick question. I understand that there'll be fewer seats in the new auditorium than there are in the current auditorium.
Slightly fewer seats, yes.
I'm curious as to the stage space itself. Is it larger or smaller than what we have today?
The stage space is slightly smaller than you have today, but one of the things that we have in the plan, one, we have a cross corridor right behind the stage, and we have music, black box theater, and choral room all directly behind the stage. So we have in a dressing room and storage. We have much better support spaces now than the current stage has. So I think if you sort of balance it out, there'll be a much more functional stage than today, where you have to store things on the stage or you have to use the stage as rehearsal space. In the future, we'll have rehearsal spaces independent of the stage itself. So in that sense, it gives a lot more flexibility. We also have it set up that we anticipate that the first, here's the front of the stage, here's the line of the curtain. I don't know if you can see, it's fairly, but the first 2 rows of seats will actually be movable. So if you were doing, say, a musical performance with an orchestra, you could take those away, in essence have an orchestra pit there. So there'll be that kind of flexibility as well, which doesn't exist today. Here's that section, as I was saying, where the front half of the auditorium is a lower slope, and the back half is much steeper. And you can enter this back side of the auditorium from the 2nd floor. Here's where you'd enter at the 1st floor level, and that lines up with the stage. So everything is handicapped accessible. You can obviously not only enter here, you can travel down to here, you can travel to the stage. There's a level walkway there. You can enter at the back of the auditorium and have seats there. So we have handicapped accessibility throughout the different levels of the auditorium. We also will have some catwalks up here, again, for technical assistance in lighting, and particularly in lighting, and as I said, sound systems throughout. We understand, how important music is especially to the high school here. These are some of the materials that we are going through. This is part of the process nowadays. We've shared this with the building committee, with the users of the space. Some of the ways, this is just a sample of showing, even though we haven't picked final colors yet, but that's part of the thinking as we select materials too. That will be happening in the next few months. In the gymnasium, just to show you quickly, there'll be a wood floor. We'll be able to integrate some of the team colors. I think we have one more view. Even on the bleachers, they have bleachers nowadays where you can do logos, or you can do, this doesn't show it, but you can do, either Stoughton or SHS as well. The bleachers are all retractable. There are 2 cross courts. This new gymnasium is not quite twice as big, but certainly significantly larger than the existing high school gym. Oh, sorry, yes.
A suggestion, and I've seen it done by people who spend millions just on this part of the facility, that the acoustical and the public address system are tested with nobody there.
Yes.
And then you get a crowd of screaming fans.
Right.
And you wonder why the millions of dollars spent on the audio-video stuff, you can't hear it.
Mm-hmm. We have a consultant specifically for that to help us design. Usually that's a result of the numbers and the type of speakers that are supplied. If you have just one speaker, like there's a speaker right there, and you think just by turning up the volume when it's louder that will help, but really you need a number of speakers to distribute the sound so you don't have to crank up the volume and everybody is sitting relatively close to a speaker. Makes the sound more intelligible for folks. So yes, we're taking that into account.
Have a final tweak during one of the games, you work back with consultants.
Good idea. Yeah, we typically have sort of a training session for all of the new systems in the building, so that the people who need to operate them, are fully trained. Often they're videotaped, or recorded in some way too, so that for future reference too, people understand how to, adjust the lights, the sound, the bleachers, and so forth. So we would have those training sessions too. It's a good idea. We could do one during an actual event.
As I say, colleges and universities that I'm familiar with have made that same mistake.
Yeah.
The final tweaking is nobody there.
Yes. No background sound, right.
The old place, you could at least hear the announcer In the new place, you can't, yes, they do have multiple speakers.
Yes. Another question, yes.
Yeah, you mentioned handicapped accessibility earlier. Is there a place for people who can't climb stairs to actually watch events? I don't see any depicted there.
Yeah, they're not shown in these cutouts here, but they're actually cutouts that are flexible. In other words, they're not permanently cut out. If there's no one that needs those seats, you can actually slide them all out and make use of them. But they are at court level. And for these bleachers, the accessible locations are at court level here. Mm-hmm. And the schedule, I don't expect you to be able to read that, but just to let you know that Consigli is already working on it and has detailed out the phases. In fact, I think we have some phasing diagrams to share with you that they had, even before they were selected, they had worked out sort of based on our initial clues as to how we envision this happening. But and we'll spend probably more time on this in the spring as we get closer, as Dom said, closer to construction, and we want to make sure not only the school but the abutters are aware of what's going to be happening. But just a quick overview. Here's the existing high school. Here's Pearl Street again, Adams Street. So as I said, we would fence off. In fact, this fence right here is the tennis court fence. That's a good point of reference. So the parking lot is going to remain during the construction sequence. And the rest of the athletic fields basically are fenced off and turned over to the contractor to construct the new high school. The entrances will be off of Adams Street primarily for construction activity, but the school will still have access to this lot out here off of Adams Street. We'll still have, the same traffic flow off of Pearl Street that exists today. So both cars and buses will be able to travel through to serve not only the high school but the middle school. So that path remains open both for buses and then for pedestrians. So if some high school students park here, they can still travel up to the high school, without crossing the construction zone. Exactly. As was mentioned, we do want to eliminate that parking off of Adams Street during construction because there will be a fair amount of construction traffic coming in and out here. We probably want to actually set up some Jersey barriers and all of this is surrounded by chain link construction fence. And to make up for that loss of parking there's an area in front of the school here, saving that nice tree, by the way. There's an area in front of the school that could temporarily be paved and serve as additional parking to replace the parking that's lost along the on-street parking on Adams Street.
Carl, just to be clear, Christian and I are talking about, we're going to be doing early site work during the months of April and May. We're actually not going to have the fencing up till after graduation.
Right. This is more the what would be happening during the subsequent school year. So, starting in the summer and then continuing through actually 2 school years to construct the new school. This is essentially where the construction activity will be while school is ongoing here. Obviously, during the summers, we'll limit any activities here so that the contractor can do some other things to make connections and so forth. And as was mentioned, next spring, there may be some early utility work needed to make sure that this school can stay online and that any sewer or drain lines that cross this property are taken care of before the main construction activity happens. There was a question there.
Yes. What type of planning is being done to handle the additional traffic and confusion from the construction along with all the parent and student drop-off and pickups, not just at the high school but also the middle school?
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little more detail again in the spring, I think. But typically what we see is, first of all, in our specifications, we limit the construction traffic during morning arrival and afternoon pickup times. We prohibit the contractor from having deliveries during those. We'll find the right window of time. Usually it's an hour or so at each point there, so that we minimize that conflict. Generally, construction workers arrive at school before the high school students and staff do.
Maybe Christian
So, you want to talk?
Currently, sorry.
You might want to use that, yeah.
So currently in Holbrook, we actually, in our contracts with our subcontractors, we dictate that there's times deliveries can't be made and people can't come in just for that reason, to make sure that your pickup and drop-offs are unimpeded. We keep separation at all times, so there's definitely not going to be any conflicts between your buses and your parents in our construction vehicles.
And the roads will be free.
The roads will be free. Yeah, we definitely have to go through a whole traffic plan.
The contractors' parking will all be within their zone. They won't take any of, the school's parking spaces. They won't park on the street. That won't be allowed.
The other
Yep.
slides?
Yeah.
Actually, we show our
don't know if you
contractor
can
parking
see.
on the inside. I think it's the next one.
There we are.
Right, so
You can use that red. That's a
got it here.
laser
So-
pointer.
So right this pointer here, this is where my contractors will be parking inside the fence, so we're not in your community. We will limit we have an entrance here as well as here. Everybody will be inside the fence before 7 o'clock because they have to be working by 7 o'clock. No deliveries will happen until after all your students are in, so typically not until after 9 o'clock. Same thing between the hours of 2 and 3. Actually, I think 1:30 and 2:30, there'll be no deliveries or pickups in those time periods.
You can keep going if you want. Walk through. Here's the new building being built, the
Right,
ABCD.
So just to back it up a bit, we won't start on your site until after your commencements. I believe that's June 8th. So we will be anything happening prior to that, other than maybe some testing of soils and stuff just to confirm the existing materials. We'll come in, again, like I said earlier, we have our parking here. We'll start with the construction of the foundations here. We'll put in our access roads so we can easily access the construction within the fence area, all the while having clear separation between your community and our construction workers. You can see a red line here. We're maintaining a fire safety around the entire building throughout the entire construction. As you move on, you can see the building coming up. Nothing really changes much there. And that's between October and April. April, July, this is the exciting part when you guys are obviously getting ready to come in. You're in prior to July. At that point there, we'll be swapping. What I'll say is now you will take over this area. So that now the fence of my construction area is now out in this area. The construction vehicles are coming in and out of this area, all the while where you have your parkings here, as well as right here. You've got clear access in and out to Pearl Street.
And this lot too continues, right?
That continues to be yours.
Okay, I know
Okay.
parents are going to be asking, and
No, I'm sure. Yes.
Is there any way that the current
Oh,
tennis courts can be removed and reinstalled somewhere else, or are they a lost cause?
Actually, I haven't got to the next one. If we take a look, so once we start the demolition of the existing school here, as we move forward, you'll see, now we put in the soccer field. We're still removing the actual existing high school. We've got this area here that we actually have to bring down quite a bit. Now you can see we've got the new football field going in, the stands, all this other access, and then finally it didn't come there, but I didn't think we got a chance to show. So you've got new tennis courts right there. There will be a period of time that you will not have tennis courts from that, I think it's September of 19 to the August of 20.
My question is, will they be the ones we have now and just pulled up and reinstalled, or the ones we have now are just gone?
Those will be gone. They'll be completely new.
And the temporary parking you're going to have on what's presently the front of the high school, instead of paving, have you considered stone dust or asphalt scrapings, which would be cheaper and easier to remove?
Absolutely. We at this point here, it's more of in the development stage. As the documents come out, we'll challenge that and actually study those costs, and we'll certainly keep it at most cost effective. Yes.
Would you go back to the slide before we showed the finished product?
Finish.
19?
We did.
Okay. That area, the brown area adjacent to the pull-up, on the left.
Right here?
No, the open space. My question, yes. How big of an area is that?
That right there.
Well, if you look at, just to compare, here's the parking lot right out there. You can see it's a little bit smaller than that, but it's almost that big. That's our future expansion area. If the building ever needed to expand in the future, that's where we'd see it happening without really disrupting, any of the site or utility work. Okay. So I think that's what we wanted to cover today. In terms of where we're at, you can see there's a lot of details that will go into the phasing and the construction, and that's why we'll have another meeting again before construction actually starts next spring, that we can talk about some of those aspects. It's very important that that we get input from not only the school staff and so forth, but also the community and particularly the abutters. Yes?
Just one more quick question. Is the skate park to be created somewhere, or is that
That's not part of our project. We've talked that over with the town. It is not going to be relocated on this property.
So it will be destroyed, but there are no plans?
Well, not necessarily destroyed.
They're going to take it and
Yeah.
they're relocating it somewhere, but they haven't found a permanent place.
They're precast concrete pieces, so they can actually be picked up and moved. So as a minimum, they're at least going to be stored, probably in the DPW yard for now. And if a new home, a new location is found, they can be reused. Yes, Cynthia?
In the schedule that you showed, or someone showed, the very first slide, the last date was October 7th, and you were submitting the design to the MSBA?
Yes, there's, yeah.
Okay. How far are you away from actually construction documents?
We're working on construction documents right now because we just completed that phase of the project, design development as it's called, and we're working on the so-called construction documents. These are the documents that will actually be put out to bid.
I know what construction documents are.
There you go.
And how soon will those be done?
I forget our date. I think it's somewhere around March.
60% submittal in
Yeah, there are two more submittals to the MSBA. We submit them when they're 60% complete, and we do another cost estimate, and then we have sort of an update of that cost estimate at 90% complete, just to make sure we're on track budget-wise, and we submit them again to the state. And then soon after, obviously, we're at 100, they go out to bid. It's into the spring, but with this construction management process, there's actually kind of sort of an overlapping process. We'll finish the site drawings with all the site utility information probably first, so that can be bid while we're still finishing the architectural details. So the site drawings are probably going to be complete by the end of January or so, so we can get that ready for bidding while we're still working on finishing up the architectural drawings later, like I think it's March or maybe April.
I heard March, and that was
Yeah.
the answer to my question.
Okay. And again, we'll try to make all those documents available to you in some form that's reasonable. They're a very thick package of information, but as PDFs electronically, we certainly give a copy to the owner of all this information for those people who are interested, or those people who have the other part of this. If there are local tradesmen in the area that are interested in bidding on the project, there's going to be a whole pre-qualification process to become eligible to be a plumber or an electrician or a drywall contractor on the project.
When you say the owner, does that mean there's a copy at Town Hall, there's a copy here at the high school, or there's a copy at the public library? Or?
I don't know where, generally it's a school department that we deliver drawings to, the superintendent's office. I'm not sure where they make them available, but here you go, Joel. Thank you.
All right, at this point, we're going to take any more questions, and I'll kind of direct who's going to answer them. But to answer your question, we do have an extra copy of the new plans at the superintendent's office. Joel Harding has it, and we're trying to decide where to put it. One of the things that we've discussed in the past is keeping a set of plans at the public library. I've talked to Pat Basler over there, and she says that she can probably find a place where people can come into the library and review the plans and take a look at it, and that give them the ability to see what's happening. Okay. One of the reasons why, just to reiterate why the building committee decided to go with the construction management at risk, is it allows us to put out some early packages. And not only is the site work something that can be bid earlier than everything else, but hopefully we might also do the structural steel. It's one of the things we've discussed, so that we can get the steel on time and to make sure that everything's happening. One of the questions the building committee had for Consigli Construction was asking what the impact of the construction activity in the Boston area and how that was going to impact the ability for this school to get the right people to do the work. I think that one of the things that we see is that the groups of subcontractors and workers and everything that is working in all the downtown Boston work, which Consigli has been doing some of, is a little bit different than subcontractors that like to work on the public buildings. So we both believe, or as a group we believe, that we'll get the coverage that we're looking for so we can get competitive bids. We will be, under state law, we have to pre-qualify a number of the subcontractors, and that will start in about 4 or 5 months, Don, somewhere around there. So we'll take a look at that. Because we're using the construction manager at risk, this gives us the ability to go out and solicit whatever type of work we can from local firms, just to make sure that we get the coverage. I think Consigli has even identified a bunch of local firms that we're going to be talking to, so that we can make sure that firms who are located in Stoughton will be encouraged to take a crack at this project to make sure that they can do that work. And I know that, I think Consigli is also, you've looked at the union members that are also live in the Stoughton area, so that we make sure that they all know that this project is open and who the contractors are. And if they're a union member, they can participate with those contractors, hopefully in working on a school in their own community, which is always good to have. Other than that, the building committee is quite confident in the group that's been put together and our project team. We think this is going to be a very successful project. As Dom stated earlier, we are at this point in time looking to be on budget, and I think that we're going to stay that way. Are there any other questions? In that case, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Please eat some cookies. Otherwise, Principal Miller has to take them home and eat them herself, and she doesn't want to do that. So thank you very much for coming.